Hey everybody, I'm Justin Schlegel with RHP Real Estate and Team Schlegel. Today we're going to talk about real estate commissions. It's a hot topic because last Friday there was a major announcement regarding a settlement for a commissions lawsuit. So let's go back to 2019. There were a couple different class action lawsuits filed in different states that ultimately alleged a number of large brokerages had conspired together and were price fixing. But I can say that's just not the case. There is no standard commission rate. In my almost 21 year career, I've handled transactions from a flat fee all the way up to 10%. It varies based upon property type, price point, market conditions, all sorts of different factors. So there is no standard. Commissions have always been in place and commissions have always been negotiable. So what this is really about is decoupling commissions. So what that means is ultimately the seller pays the listing broker, which is their representation, and the buyer pays the buyer's broker, which is their representation. Sounds simple. In reality, it's not, because most buyers do not have the funds on hand to make that happen. They already struggle with down payment, let alone closing costs. So adding another expense just isn't realistic. So you look at, okay, can they roll that into their mortgage? Nope, not allowed. Will that change in the future? I don't know. I do know that changes will be coming. Can they just ask for concessions from a seller for that? Well, if they already need the concessions for closing costs or more recently, buying down an interest rate, that doesn't work because there's a limit on the amount of concessions they can get from a seller. You know, for sellers that think, great, I don't have to pay a buyer's broker anymore. Well, you can go that route. However, there are potential consequences because that's going to take out a large portion of buyers that would otherwise maybe be interested in your home and thus could impact your final sales price, how long it takes to sell, the difficulty, etc. So a whole lot that'll go into that. But with the process now is that the seller agrees to a total commission rate with the listing broker, and the listing broker pays the buyer broker part of that total commission. So it gets split at closing. So if we go forward and the MLS no longer allows for buyer brokers to know what they would be paid if they bring forward a buyer, it changes the process quite a bit. And a lot of buyers, if they decide, hey, I don't have the money, I'm just going to be unrepresented, well, that leads to future lawsuits because people are getting taken advantage of. They're going to get into situations where they have nobody on their side. And that's not a good thing for the consumer. So there's a lot of challenges that are arising from this decision, and we don't have all the answers yet. So it's going to be a little bit of a moving target. There's a lot that's going to unfold in the next few months, but there are changes coming. One, like I mentioned, the MLS will no longer be allowed to be a place where you can advertise what is being offered to a buyer broker when you're selling your home, and also a buyer broker agreement. So a written contract between the realtor or broker and the prospective buyer will be required prior to even touring a home. So the looky-loos that want to just go look at a home on a whim, yeah, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to sign off first that you are employing a broker to represent you in your best interest as a buyer. So lots of different finagling that's going to need to be done with the process of how real estate is transacted. So who suffers in this? Ultimately, I think it's first-time home buyers and a lot of buyers because they don't have the money, they could be unrepresented, and that leads to additional challenges. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a higher barrier of entry into home ownership. And that widens the wealth gap. And for all the talk of promoting fair housing, I think this hinders the minorities as well. So a lot of people could suffer as a result of this. And in reality, commissions aren't going away. It's just an optic thing. Who wins? Well, the attorneys, for one, they're the big winners in this. And then ultimately, who's fueling this? I just have to believe that there is some back channel financing and such by private equity firms, Wall Street, and other entities that may stand to gain from the fallout and from future new business models. So that's kind of what's going on with real estate commissions. There's a lot more information to know. I've wrote a long article about all sorts of things with this topic. So please never hesitate with any questions. I'm glad to answer anything you've got. Thank you for watching and have a great day.